Then I'm going to save it to YouTube as a private file. And then I'll give you a link to it. And I'll give you one for each of the sessions. Okay.
That sounds perfect. That sounds great.
I also sent you the workbook for today in an email. I don't know if you have it yet, but
I saw that. I opened it and I've not had I did not go through it yet. But yeah, I've got
not
it.
at all. I just sent it to you. So
You did.
don't expect
Okay.
it.
Okay, good.
That's what's on our screen right now.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to be talking about.
All right, great.
Auto rental management from the Center for International Rental Automotive Standards. Is that so cool?
That's very official. That's
Very
cool.
official. There's a table of contents. Don't pay attention to the pages because the sessions that I sent you are broken up in different orders.
Okay.
When I send you the hard copy of the manual, that's where your index will work.
Okay, great.
There's a letter from me, only because the other guys didn't want to write one, so I wrote one. And here's where we start. Auto Rental Solutions. We designed this course to assist you, Malcolm, in the creation of your own profitable independent car rental company. Anybody can rent cars. What do you need to rent cars? Let me think. I need cars. I need insurance and a rental agreement. What more do I need? Oh, I don't know. How about how to not lose money as quickly as possible? And that's what we want to train you for. Auto Rental Solutions will show you how to build it with our proprietary system for profit building, not how the airport guys do it. Auto Rental Solutions will do its best to help you find your identity in your and your client base in your area. Now you're down in Houston. What's the weather like in Houston?
Yep. Our company's based in Houston. I'm in Los Angeles actually, but the company's based in Houston. We are.
Okay. Are you going to be working in Houston?
Yeah, that is where from a legal and kind of corporate point of view, that's where the company's all going to be. I'm in and out of there. I live in Los Angeles, so I work remotely, but for the most part, the company's operated out of Houston.
Okay. And who's going to run the day-to-day operations?
I mean, currently that's me and whoever we hire to fill in the operations roles.
Okay. That's why it's so cool that you opted for the for taping it, because you'll be able to use it to train. The whole idea of what we do is train the trainer.
That's great. That's exactly what we're looking for. Yeah.
The other thing that you'll notice is this training manual is filled with policies and procedures. The whole idea is to give you the policies and procedures that you need to run a profitable company. I got to tell you, if you do everything the way we tell you to do it, and you do everything the way your insurance company says to do it, you're going to go broke in about 6 weeks. Okay. But we're going to give you the party line. And then your personality, your company's personality, you'll be able to take what we give you and create your own policies and procedures. That's what this is all about.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unlike buying a franchise where you got to do it the franchise way, you got to buy your buns from this place, you got to buy your hamburgers from there, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We're not like that. I'm sorry about the dogs. My wife how should I say? She rescues dogs.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very nice person. And that's probably why I'm still here. Otherwise, I would have been gone a long time ago. So when she wants to, we've got 5 dogs.
5's a lot. Yeah.
She took 2 of them for a walk, and the other 3 are out there going, hey, what about us?
Where's our walk? Hey, I'm right there. We recently lost our family dog who passed, but
Uh,
same thing with my wife. He was so attached to my wife. He loved, you know, me and the kids too, but when she was gone, he'd be at the door waiting for her. Where's Dana? When's she coming back? All of that stuff. So anyway,
yeah.
no worries at all about the barking in the
Yeah,
background.
and it's all like, where's mom? Where's mom?
Yeah,
Where's mom?
yeah,
Where's mom? Mom.
they are really funny that way. Yep.
I know. And the different personalities, it's hysterical. We're going to talk about the industry today. The industry, in this section, we're going to discuss the rental market's overall size, identify the various segments of the business, and the marketplace's latest concepts. We're also going to review the size of the players in the market. As you proceed through this course, we're going to show you how to get your market share and find your niche or niche, depending on whether we're the knights that say niche or anyway, that's an old movie. This is interesting here. This is from the Auto Rental News fact book that comes out. Matter of fact, it's coming out in another 15, 20 days. Well, a month from now, it'll be out. And this was as of December 18th, 2020, just on the cusp of the COVID. Enterprise, 1,100,000 cars, 6,000 US locations, 14,700,000,000 worth of revenue. Holy mackerel, Andy. That's a lot of money. Okay. Hertz, 430,000. They filed bankruptcy right after this came out. They're really, I think right now about 230,000 cars. And they got destroyed. This is the second time they filed bankruptcy, and they continue with the same management team. I don't get it, but okay. Avis, they also own Dollar and Thrifty. The Avis Budget Group includes Payless and Zipcar. We're going to talk about the Avis Budget Group. They're running about 350,000 cars. I think they're about 250 right now. The whole industry is about 700,000 cars light right now. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of freaking cars. And the reason being is when the crunch hit, everybody was selling cars. And it was like a fire sale. Inside of 2 months, they found out that the factories were shut down. So the factories were shut down. They weren't making any cars. Then they weren't making any cars. They said, okay, let's fire up the factories because now they want them. And then they said, wait a minute, where's the chips? We don't have any chips. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about potato chips. So now we have a scenario where the factories can build cars and trucks, but they can't put the chips into the computers. The same issue is going on with washers and dryers and just about anything else electronic, unless it comes from, let me think, China. Okay. Sixt is a German company, the largest of the car rental companies in Germany, and I think one of the largest in Europe. They're just making inroads the last couple of years here in the US, and they're in about 100 airports. Fox Rent-A-Car, they're an association, not a rental car company. They get independents to become part of their association, and they handle airport reservations. So does Ace Rent-A-Car, and so does Rent-A-Wreck of America. Now, Rent-A-Wreck of America, the NP Auto Group, which includes Priceless and Next Car, and the Franchise Services of North America, which is USAVE, who owns Rent-A-Wreck in Canada, and there are a lot of independents. They have, as you can see, smaller groups. And it's interesting because all of these operators are actually independent operators. They're not franchises.
Mhm.
On top of this, there are 42,000 independents. So in reality, the secondary market is from Fox Rent-A-Car on down.
Mm.
But we're going to focus right now because most of their revenue, other than their local operations such as Rent-A-Wreck or USave, their operations are basic airport operations, and their numbers are a little skewed. So we're going to look at just independents. That's the mom and pop, that's the body shop, the garage, the dealership, okay, that has a rental car entity.
Mm.
And so they've got 42,000 cars in service and 4,200 locations, about 100 cars per location, or I'm sorry, 10 cars per location. I wish it was 100. Many of ours have 100. Just a matter of fact, there's one fella that we trained. I just talked to him Thursday. He's in St. Thomas. He opened up in St. Thomas with 5 cars 3 years ago. He's at 225 cars right now.
Oh man, that's
On the
fantastic.
island of St. Thomas.
That's amazing.
Now I got to ask you, how many roads are in St. Thomas? I've never been there, but it can't be very many.
No, I'm sure it's one going up and one coming back down.
And he's got 220 cars and trucks.
That's
He said,
amazing.
Jim, I'm sold out all the time.
Yeah,
I love it.
incredible. That's great.
And he's a guy, he's just the nicest man. And his, between his wife and his kids, they got a great little business going there.
Awesome.
Thanks to the China virus, comical. When I typed this out and I wrote China virus, Grammarly won't let me put China virus in it. They want me to change it.
Oh my God.
So I had to override Grammarly
That is great.
because as far as I'm concerned, that's where it came from.
Hmm.
There was a 27.4% drop in total revenues for the US car market from 19 to 20. I'm waiting for the next group to come out, for the next fact book to come out,
Mhm.
because I'm thinking we're going to see probably another 27 to 28 drop for 21.
Jim, sorry to interrupt. Can I ask a question on the big guys up there, the Enterprise, the Hertzes, the Avis? Are those always, are they 100% franchised, or are there, are they half and half with company-owned stores, or how's that? And sorry for my.
Oh no, how do I say this? You're my customer.
Okay.
You stop me whenever you want to stop me. You ask questions whenever you got one. Enterprise is a wholly owned company and it's private. It's a corporation, but it's wholly owned by the family.
Mm.
Okay. It's privately held. They don't trade on the stock market that I know of. Hertz, Dollar and Thrifty. About half of the Dollar and Thrifty franchises or locations are franchises. Hertz has maybe a dozen old franchises that have been around forever, but each of that changes.
Mm-hmm.
Avis and Budget, same thing. They're about 50% corporate stores. Payless are actually old Rent-A-Wreck guys, and Zipcar is pretty much non-existent anymore. We'll talk about Zipcar later on.
Yeah.
Sixt, here in the US, they're franchises. The rest of the world they're owned by Sixt.
Okay.
Fox, Ace, and all the rest of these are all franchises or associations or independents.
Okay.
Okay. The independent operators are those not connected to the big name companies. From the factors above, Auto Rental News Fact Book, we've broken out these averages. The independents have 10 cars in their fleet on average. Well, I've got some that have got 200 here in the US. We've also got a lot of body shops and garages that have one, and they don't even charge. Okay. But we pick them up as rental car companies. The revenue per unit per month is $1,012. Well, last year, they went down to $975 in the industry. So the locals held their own. Revenue per location was about 101,000, or I'm sorry, 10,000, and per year about 121,000. So that's for a 10-car operator. And understand that these numbers are skewed because there's a lot of dealerships and body shops that do not report.
Okay.
There are, and we have several dealerships that we work with that are running 25 and 30 cars, but they're all loaner cars. They don't charge for them. Okay. So they don't report, but they do get counted as registered rental cars. If you follow our training, we expect you to do far better than what we're showing here. Normally, we profess that we can show you how to do $1,400 per car per truck. Right now, we're looking around $2,000 per vehicle. Okay. How long this is going to last, we don't know. The auto rental industry has two separate segments, the airport and the off airport or neighborhood car rental company. The only thing these two segments have in common is cars. You need to understand the difference. And the reason you need to understand the difference is you need to educate your banker, your lawyer, your accountant on what kind of business you're in. If you go to your bank this afternoon and you say, I need 300 grand to buy rental cars, they're going to say, get out of here, kid. Okay, you're nuts. Get out of here. We're not in that business. Because in their mind's eye, they see airport, 600 cars, 6,000 cars, buses, 24 hours. The town will go absolutely insane because they won't know how to handle it. And especially, they don't understand the industry. So you need to teach them. So let's talk about the airport for a minute. The airport relies on high volume reservations through their GDS systems, global distribution systems, and that's an offshoot of the airline industry. So Orbitz, Travelocity, Expedia, they all feed into and take info from the global distribution systems. There's 4 of them. Forget about it. You got to be in 21 airports and you got to, it's $500,000 to unlock the door to their software. Okay. They also have very high costs at the airport. They have to pay rent for the counter. They have to pay rent for their service facility. They can't take it off airport. They have to pay the airport commissions, a percentage of their revenue. And they have to hit yearly minimums. And if they don't hit it, that's what put Hertz, that's why Hertz filed, because they couldn't hit their yearly minimum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. And their yearly minimum, because Hertz is Hertz, they bid high. Okay. And they also didn't have the cash reserves to pay all the airports. So they filed so they didn't have to pay the airports. Shuttle van costs. You have to pay for every time your shuttle goes in and every time your shuttle goes out of the airport. And the staffing costs, because you're running 24 hours a day. They generally do little marketing because the GDS brings everything in. Airport operators, their rates are usually based on reservation volume for the specific day, week, high season, low season. They are also watching their competition, and they will raise or lower their rates depending on what competition is doing and the volume of reservations that are coming in. They have programs that automatically raise and lower their rates based on the other people in the airport. And I've seen where during a training session, somebody says, well, I've never seen Expedia, and I'll log on to Expedia. And while we're on, we'll say, see this particular car right here, and blah, blah, blah. And now I'll go to click on it and the rate changes. Because there's one more person. I put them over that threshold.
Yeah, they saw
Not
you
me
looking at it. And,
particularly, right.
Yeah.
But that I was part of that threshold, and they went up 55 cents.
Yeah.
It happens. They add these extra fees onto the base rates. Anytime you do any traveling, you see that, oh, I can rent a car for, and then before you get out the driveway, you're adding another 30 bucks to the rental. And those are usually concession fees, airport access fees, a vehicle license fee, which is one of the things that I'm going to teach you to charge, and recap fees, which are heat, lights. All kidding aside, you have the same expenses. But lo and behold, the local operator who puts out a price and then adds all these fees, he's going to get his nose broken because we're not in that realm. But we need to know this because you need to be able to teach your customers and your employees why the car at the airport is cheaper. Okay. Many cities have special levies on car rentals. I recently rented a car in Phoenix. It was a one-time city charge of $20 and $2 per day for the city to pay for, and it said stadium tax. At least they're not bashful. Not to mention there was the concession fee and the access fee and a license fee and a recap fee. They didn't call it recapture fee. They said electric charge. Okay. And so if you're going, and I'm going to ask you up front, are you planning on dealing with airports?
No.
Thank you. Most airport rental locations require proof of a return ticket. So you're going to hear people say, well, I'm going to the airport. I can get a car for cheaper. Fine. But what happens, they'll be back because when they get there, number one, if they're under 25, they won't rent to them. Number two, if they don't have a return ticket, they won't rent to them. Why? Airports realize, and the airport industry realizes that their cars, and it's almost been a decade now, that the annual or the daily number of miles that they put on a car is 67 miles on a rental car at an airport. The reason being, I'm not going to fly to Houston and rent a car at the airport to drive to Disneyland. I'm going to drive to Anaheim, or I'm going to fly to Anaheim and rent a car. I'm not going to go to Florida by renting a car, flying to Houston, and then renting a car and driving over. But if I live in Houston and grandma and grandpa are coming and they're going to spend a couple, 3 days, and they want to take the kids to Disney, then I'm going to try and rent a minivan to take everybody in the minivan to go to Florida. Well, that's where the local market comes in. Okay. So most rental locations at the airport will require that there's a return ticket or they won't make that rental. They just absolutely do not rent to the majors. Now, what does that mean? What it really means is you're going to make friends with the kids on the counter because they're going to have they're no different than us. If you're close enough to an airport, you got to say, by the way, if you get a local that comes in and you can't rent them a car, I will. And, I'll send you a ham sandwich. Okay. So they can build up all the ham sandwiches they want by
Mhm,
sending those folks to you.
mhm.
Um, here's a neighborhood guy. Whoops, that's a neighborhood lady. Goodbye. There we go. I got to go back to that. That looked cute. Anyway, Triangle Rent-A-Car was an operator. He's since passed away last year, as a matter of fact. But he sold his operation to Enterprise. He had 14 locations with an average of 100 cars at each location, pretty much from South Carolina down to Florida. And it was Triangle Rent-A-Car. He and his partner put together a great program. They were very active in the different associations that we're in and did a wonderful job. Great customer service, blah, blah, all the goodies. Okay. But look at how smart it looks. Nice and clean and neat. Notice there's no dead cars parked out front. Okay. And they did a lot, and it was all local market. He was not on the GDS systems, and he was running 1,400 cars.
Mhm.
Neighborhood operators also have much lower operating costs than the airports. So you got a better margin. Do you know what Hertz projected last year before the COVID hit? This is also part of why they went bust. You know what they projected a per month per car profit? $7.
Oh, wow.
They projected that they were going to make $7 per month per car. Now multiply that times 430,000 cars. That's a lot of money.
Mhm.
And they were all thrilled. They said, whoa, $7 a car, we're gonna kill it. And I'm gonna get $1 million bonus, and you're gonna get a $500,000 bonus. Do it. Guess what? When the crunch hit, they had no cash reserves.
Mhm.
And that's what did them in. They're still thinking the same way. What can I say? Local market rates are not as competitor sensitive as the airport. As a neighborhood operator, you're part of the community. And the customer does not merely come to you. You have to go out and get them. You got to go out and shake hands, make site visits, join the chamber. And we'll talk about that in the marketing piece. You need to understand the difference between the two segments, because you're the one that's going to have to educate your banker and so on. We talked about that.
Mhm.
Have you considered franchising, getting a franchise?
We have not.
Okay. I'll briefly run through this, touch bases. If you decide that having a Rent-A-Wreck or a USave or a Sensible label is going to bring you business, understand it's going to cost you between 9 and 20 grand, plus a monthly royalty fee of between 4 and 8%. And if they send you reservations, they're going to want $7 to $13.
Hmm.
And you have to use their approved signs, which are usually around 5 grand. So how's that franchise sounding so far?
Mhm. Pretty
Yeah.
expensive. Yeah.
An authorized software program that's going to cost you between $3,000 and $7,000.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is so that they can pull their fees on the first of every month for last month,
Mm.
right out of your checking account.
Very smart. Yeah.
I like it. The new operator should carefully review any franchise offer. And if you decide you want to, in the future, if you decide you want a franchise, you pick one out and you call us.
Mhm. Okay.
Because I used to sell franchises. David used to sell franchises. David couldn't be with us today because actually he's working with the next franchise to help him get started in the local market as we
Oh,
speak.
wow. Yeah.
Might be joining us after the session.
Okay.
So anyway, they will establish their operating name and fashion for doing business. That means you got to buy the cars from them, you got to buy the insurance through them, you got to, it's like owning a McDonald's, you got to buy their buns, their hamburger, and their cheese.
Mhm.
Some operators may choose to rent as an individual, and this is what's beautiful about this. As a franchise, you got to toe the party line. We rent Fords, we rent Dodges, we rent, okay? Whatever the customer base is in your area, that's what you rent. Example, if I had an operation in Buffalo, New York, we got Delco up there, which I don't know what it's called now. And we've got, and that's in Rochester. We had in Buffalo, you had Dana, which built the axles and all that stuff.
Yep.
We had a couple of Chrysler engine plants, transmission plants. You better be renting Chrysler products.
Mhm.
Don't you dare put in a Toyota that's going to sit still.
Mhm.
But if I'm in Los Angeles, it's not going to do me much good to put in a Dodge. I better have a Corolla. I better have a Honda.
Mhm.
Okay. Different things for different areas. Okay. So you can do that where a franchise can't. Some dealers plan to build a real rental business while others are content to operate just a few cars to take care of their customers. And that's for a dealer. There's some independents associations like ACE, Economy, Fox, that takes you into the realm of GDSs if you want. And there's my mother-in-law, mine and Jim's car rental. This was right after she shaved. She looked really nice. Others might choose to join. My wife is out with the other dogs. That's why I could get away with that,
Nice.
which
Yep.
is comical. I'm working out of the house. It is so strange. When the COVID hit, we used to do all these trainings in a conference room in my office.
Mhm.
I had a 2,200 square foot office until the first of last month.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I would go in and everybody was working out of their house. I was the only one for a year going into the office.
In the office. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going in every day and I would sit there going, lonely. I'm Mr. Lonely.
Echoing off the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I said, this is nuts. I'm paying for a 2,200 square foot office. Everybody's home. I can't. I even offered them a raise to come back in. I said, I sanitized the place. I'll wear a mask. No, they all stayed home.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're all doing a better job.
That's great. Yeah.
So I'm thrilled. Auto Rental Solution offers a menu of support programs that these people do. Bless you.
Thank you.
And it's available to all rental operators to help you build your business plan. There is some new things going on that are not so new anymore. Rental car sharing. That's where somebody goes to, I go to you and I say, listen, I got somebody who wants to drive your Ferrari. And you go, yeah, no problem. Have him come over and he can pay half of my payment and we're good to go.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's car sharing. You guys are both, you and I both, here's a good example. You and I both buy the Ferrari. And we can take the car whenever we want it, kind of like a condo.
Mhm.
Okay. That's rental car sharing. That became a real nightmare. And that's where Zip Car was. They were placing cars at corporations and at colleges and so on. And you paid a fee to be part of the program. The cars, nobody was around to check the cars in. Nobody was around to check the cars out. Nobody was checking them for maintenance. Nobody was cleaning them. Hertz thought it was a great idea. Another one of their brilliant moves 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Not to pick on Hertz all the time, but they are the classic. They're the ones that walked around for all those years going, hey, we're number one. Not anymore. Okay. they bought Zipcar. They said, oh, we're going to corner the market on Zipcar. They picked up 50,000 cars. The 50,000 cars were 2 years old. They were in such bad shape. They ran them to the auction and lost gobs. You know what a gob of money looks like? It's a pile about this big, $100 bills. That's a gob.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
In the
Yeah.
vernacular. They lost gobs, plural, of money. So bad that 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, they had to restate their financials. And they almost got kicked off of the market, kicked out of the market for it.
Oh, wow.
Delisted. So rental car sharing, don't get involved.
Mhm,
It's tempting, but don't get involved.
mhm.
Renting
I-
peer-to-peer.
So on rental car sharing, I see some of this kind of sponsored by different cities and things like that. Like in Los Angeles here, we've got Blue LA, which I think is something like that. It seems
Yes, it
like
is.
Zipcar. My home city of Minneapolis had just started something, I think, in the last couple of months that sounds similar. But yeah.
The advent of the electric car surge,
Mhm,
okay, is starting to do all that. And I got to tell you, that's a great concept. Oh, as long as somebody's checking the cars in, checking them out,
mhm.
making sure the dents get taken care of, making sure that Billy Bob didn't jump the curb
Yeah.
and tear up the tires.
Mhm,
They're doomed. But hey, Zipcar was able to generate $80 million in investments. And they walked away with a pretty penny before, and then walked away with a pretty penny when they sold it to Hertz.
It hurts. Yeah.
Non-owned vehicles. This is a little different than rental car sharing.
Mhm,
Non-owned vehicles, the first one that comes to mind, there's a couple of them. One's called Turo, Turo. Another one is called Get Around. And there's a half a dozen other kinds that are doing it. Dangerous. Really dangerous, because Turo is not a rental car company. But all Turo is a middleman. They're a broker.
mhm.
They'll take my car and rent it to you. And they'll collect a fee, okay, and then share what you pay for it with me. Okay. Well, that's all well and good, but whose insurance? I went to Turo right after they really started to hit their crest, because they started out just to rent exotic cars because nobody else could.
Mhm.
And then they started renting Aunt Mary's 5-year-old Honda and so on. And they got more and more into the plebeian cars, for lack of a better term. And what was happening was all these folks were renting cars, but they weren't up to par as far as a rental car was concerned.
Mhm.
They were having breakdowns, they were having accidents. And the scary thing, I went to Turo initially because, we've got 1,100 clients that we work with. And I thought, what a great concept if they've got a good insurance package. And it
Mhm.
turns out they have an insurance package through Liberty Mutual. I said, if you could send me a copy of your policy, I would like to read through it to make sure that it's good for my clients. And I've got all these folks, heck, if they've all got 2 cars sitting still for the weekend, you can add those 2,200 cars, to your fleet.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't send me the policy to read.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that's right there and then. I tell everybody, if you're going to use them, concept is decent,
Mhm.
but the insurance is up here somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay.
No.
And they have several different packages and so on. I would not hesitate if I had if we were in a real slow time and I had an opportunity to get a couple of cars on the road, but that's all.
Mhm. Okay.
Virtual car rental. I'm going to breeze through this. Too many people today. We get this. if one more person calls me and says, I want to rent a car on my iPad and I don't want to talk to customers.
Mhm.
And if they say the words, I don't want any brick and mortar, I'm going to scream. The car rental business is a brick and mortar business.
Mhm.
I don't care how you do this. The same thing that happens to rental cars, we're seeing it happen now with what do they call it, the Airbnb guys.
Mhm.
Example, Airbnb, they rent the house to Billy. And Billy's the guy that rented it out, Billy goes there and he gets the keys. Thank you very much. And he hands the keys to his 19-year-old son for his graduation party. And in they go with 200 kids in this house having a party, and they destroy the house. And this is happening a lot because Billy, he rented the house and he bought all those extras in case things got broken.
Mhm.
Okay. The house got destroyed. Not to mention the number of times that the police come in and then the neighbors don't even want to talk to you anymore. So the same thing's happening with Turo. And it's definitely happening with virtual car rental because they never see the person. It's not a bad concept if you want to take a piece from the Zipcar and the peer-to-peer and the virtual thought process, put it all together, have a huge reserve to pay for damages, and have depreciation so high that 2 years from now, your value on your vehicles is about 18 to 20% of the original value.
Mhm.
Okay. So as you can see, it's ugly. I'll let you go through this should you ever decide. You know what? I call it virtual car rental. A whole bunch of people are calling it touchless car rental. Well, because of the COVID, we don't want to touch the customers. Really? Isn't it really like the flu on steroids? I mean, come on. So in reality, as long as you take proper steps, you got to do business. So that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. We're going to talk about setting up your business. Here are some suggestions you need to consider as you prepare to open the doors. Number one, corporation. Have you set up a corporation yet?
Yeah, we do.
And what did you have? You have a LLC?
We've got an LLC. Yep.
Did you select a DBA, or is the LLC going to be the name of the company?
The LLC is the name of the company. We may want to bring in a subsidiary underneath that because we've got a couple of lines of business just to do this. But if we don't, we've got kind of that framework set, we think.
Tell me how you're setting up the business.
So we've got a holding company, and we've got a couple of different subsidiaries, but we essentially have a holding company and an operating company. Both of them are LLCs. The operating company is kind of disregarded for tax purposes, and the kind of holding company is taxed on kind of a partnership basis.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they've got it's the name, we've got the name Merge on there and all of that.
And you're going to be operating under what name?
Merge Electric Fleet Solutions LLC.
Merge Electric Fleet.
Electric Fleet Solutions.
And who's going to own the cars? The holding company?
The holding company.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're going to lease
unless you tell me
them?
differently.
Huh?
Unless you tell us differently. We think that the holding company is the holding company is where all the financials roll up to. So we believe that would be that they would own the company or the cars.
Perfect. And you can lease them the holding company should lease them to the rental car entity.
Okay.
That's why as soon as you said a holding company, I said, great. Because your holding company should go out and buy the car,
Okay.
all right? Whether they finance it or they use their own money, it doesn't matter,
Okay.
because that's up to the holding company. Although we don't want to use our own money in the holding company to buy cars. We want to use the bank's money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then we lease it to the rental car company. So the rental car company doesn't have to worry about any depreciation other than the depreciation on the computer, the pens, the paper. Oh, that's right. We got depreciation on the printer, which we paid $77 for. Deal. The depreciation is taken on the holding company, and the lease payment is just a simple expense every month. So it's an expense to the holding company, which this way the holding company gets its money back so that it can put that money in a kitty. If you're using the corporate money, you get the picture. You've already thought it through.
Well, no, we haven't already thought of this, but it seems like something that we've got the structure that we could do. So this is great information.
You do have, this is perfect. Let's say the holding company, let's say you've got, and you got 5 partners in the holding company, and everybody kicks in 100 grand. Okay. So now we got 500 grand to go out and buy cars. And so we go out and we buy these cars, and then we set up a lease based on the depreciation and things that we're going to talk about, and setting up the cost of the vehicles in the books. Okay. And that we have in this training piece, so that the rental car entity is paying the lease payment to the holding company to put the money back plus interest, so that it can go out and buy more cars later on, or make the monthly payments to the banks or whatever that you're going to have. That's why if you ever go and look, you'll see Enterprise Holding when you go to buy one of their cars. Their cars are owned by a holding company, and they distribute the cars to the locations. So now the rental car company sets up its business program and its pro formas with an actual cost of what it's going to cost them to get the cars. No more dancing around with depreciation. The depreciation belongs to, and the tax write-off belongs to the holding company. And when the rental car company is done with the vehicle at a predetermined date or time, usually 12 months or 24 months, the car goes back to the holding company for the holding company to dispose of. I don't recommend you get into the car business, but you are in the car business. I recommend you get into the wholesale car business. Unless somebody in the organization wants to stand in the used car lot and say, "Hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming in."
Yeah.
Okay. No, you buy the cars at auction, you run the cars back to auction. You buy them at wholesale, you sell them at wholesale. And we'll talk more about that with fleet. But as we're talking, we're going to relay a lot, or refer to this holding company, okay, as we're going through this.
Okay, great.
Your tax accountant advisor will help you set it up. I would recommend a DBA. If you're going to have Merge Electric run or own the vehicles, then you might want to be, I don't know, NEH car rental or something. All right. NEH electric car rental, any way you want to go. Make sure you research the proposed name so that nobody else is using it, blah, blah, blah. Have you applied for your sales tax number?
Yeah, we've got a sales tax number for Texas.
Okay. Remember, you don't want a retail sales tax number. You want one for rental.
Then I don't think we do have that. So let me-
Okay, well, it's contact them, because I think the only difference is the box that you check on the return.
Okay.
Other than you will have specific Texas and Houston taxes and levies that you have to charge the rental car customer.
Okay.
So let's say the sales tax in Houston is 8.5%. You could have a 5% rental tax. So you got to be charging 13.5%.
Okay.
Okay. So that you want to check that. You also want to check with the city to see if there's a city rental use tax, road tax, any of that stuff. And then incorporate that. And we're not talking about the help me. We're not talking about the holding company right now. We're talking about the rental.
Okay.
Okay. So you have different taxes. Now let's go back to the holding company. The holding company is going to need a tax number. And because it should not pay sales tax when it buys the cars, because it's going to collect a tax from the rental car company. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So you want to sit down with your accountant to see, because each state, you know what we got here in the US of A? We have 50 different states that have 50 different laws about probably 1,000 different ways to collect tax. Okay, so you want to get with your tax guy and say, now what is our tax obligation on these two, so that you got it squared away in the very beginning.
Okay.
Okay. Location. Have you picked a location yet?
So yeah, in terms of city location, I mentioned Houston, Texas. In terms of storage location, we're working on it. You mentioned kind of brick and mortar. It's a brick and mortar business. We're we're not different, but we're focused. This is a B2B thing that we're doing. So we're renting or leasing these vehicles to companies. And from, we're talking about kind of terms right now, but we don't think we need an actual kind of retail brick and mortar. We think we need some place to, store and deploy these vehicles. We're probably going to be delivering them with drivers to the location of where they're going to go, if that makes
We have a
sense.
lot of folks that use like warehouses.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And we just got done with a client to help them that's been in business about a year, and they're running 60 Teslas.
Okay.
And they're working out of a warehouse.
hmm
Everything's inside. Everything's cleaned inside. And they're delivering cars. And I've got a couple exotic car folks do the same. The beauty of the electric car business is if you are storing the cars, you can have all the electric connections and everything inside.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
And the cars are nice and clean. You put a cover over them so that when you deliver them, you don't even have to dust them off.
Yeah.
Okay. Rain and snow, not going to bother them. So yeah, I would have no quarrel with working out a thing. Now you're going to be delivering them to the business. You're going to have some inherent issues with drivers.
Okay.
So we're going to have to walk through that step by step, you and I.
Okay.
Because we want to know who's sitting behind the wheel.
Okay.
Okay. We don't want to end up like Zipcar. Let's talk about telephones.
Sorry, Jim. So sorry to interrupt. I mentioned we're based in Houston. The cars are going to be stored in Houston. We'll have customers in Texas, around the state that we deliver to, and some out of state, and we're gonna kind of build into our cost structure, actually transporting them from, say Texas to Colorado. We're
Yeah.
not we're not thinking of opening a physical branch in some of these other states. Again, this
Don't
is
need to.
okay. Perfect.
Don't need to. The only time I would suggest that you would need to
Mhm.
is if you've got a lot of rentals in that particular state.
Sure. Okay.
Reason being is replacement cars, and sales tax.
Okay.
All right, sales tax issues. So, again, take it step by step.
Okay.
Phone,
So sorry, the things you mentioned about if there's a road tax and things like that, if we're renting from Houston to Denver, Colorado, do we have to pay Denver, Colorado, the city of Denver, Colorado, some of these taxes and rental fees?
the interesting thing, if you're actually renting the vehicle in Denver,
Hmm.
you got to charge Denver taxes. You
Okay.
got to have a Denver tax number.
Okay.
Okay. If you're doing the rental out of Texas and delivering the car to the customer in Texas,
Hmm.
they don't care where he takes it.
Okay.
So there's a fine line that you got to look at. What's it, about 5 hours from Houston to Denver?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So if you put the rental together in Houston and load it on a transporter and go up and meet Billy Bob, and drop off the car, and the rental agreement is signed and sealed and delivered on the internet, here's your copy, Billy. But you're under Texas.
Hmm.
If you have an employee in Denver, then you got to have a Denver tax number. I'm in trouble right now with, and I'm fighting with Texas because I hired a programmer that lives in Texas and they want me to pay franchise taxes because I have an employee. And I said, wait a minute. I hired him to do programming work. He's not selling anything. He's not doing it. He's an employee. They said, as long as you have an employee, you have to have a franchise tax. So I'm arguing with him. I fired the guy.
Mhm.
And I hired somebody here. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not going to pay you guys because they opened up a franchise tax. I'm sorry. They opened up a franchise tax account in my name. Show me my signature where I opened it up.
No,
I'll tell you.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Internet phones. I recommend a voice over IP system.
Hmm.
It's very easy to do a voice over IP. Interestingly enough, and I don't know if you're familiar with voice over IP. I'm talking to you on the internet right now. I can unplug my phone, go on vacation, and plug it in at the hotel to my computer, and the phone will ring if somebody calls me. It's like a cellular phone on steroids.
Yeah, that's great.
Because as long as there's internet, it works.
Yeah.
All right. And it has the clarity. The problem is the operators that try to use their cell phone as the business phone.
Hmm.
Because when I'm talking to a customer on my cell phone and you're talking to your customer next to me, maybe 5 feet away, the cell phone picks up both conversations.
Hmm.
All right. You've talked to people in the car and you can hear the radio and you can hear people going by.
Oh, sure.
It breaks that fourth wall. We don't want to break that fourth wall.
Hmm.
Okay. So we recommend you use a hard line or voice over IP.
I think we've got Dial Pad right now, and I
They're
think
good.
we're not using the full extent of all of their stuff, but I think we've got it set up where we can.
Yeah. And you can have and they've got so many tools. I don't use any. I use Gear, no, Next something or other,
Mhm.
Nextiva.
Next to you.
And
Okay.
they've got so many features.
Yeah.
I'll never use them, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Licenses. We were just talking about licenses. I do recommend you get a dealer's license, at least wholesale, for the holding company.
Okay.
Okay. So that you can go to the auction and buy these 1 to 3-year-old electric vehicles that come in on trade.
Okay.
Because you're going to have some of the lower price stuff to cover the higher price stuff. And in many cases, you'll have you want that license so that when you're cycling the vehicles out in 12 months or 24 months, that they either go back to the manufacturer or they go to the auction to be sold. However you work. Now, are you going to be using multiple types of electric cars?
Yes. Yep.
Good. Because Nissan has got them, Chevrolet has got them,
Yep.
Cadillac has got them. It doesn't end now.
Mhm.
They're all going to have them. Talk with the folks at the DMV about the different licenses, but I believe that Texas has a wholesale license, and that'll save you having to pay the markup of a dealer that's going to buy the cars for you.
Okay.
You should also have your license to sell rental car insurance products. You might want to write this down.
Mhm.
And it's a limited license to sell rental car products. And the reason for that is you're going to have products available to you, such as supplemental liability insurance, personal accident insurance, renter's collision protection. These are all insurance products, and you do need a limited license to sell them. Now, fortunately, the renter's collision protection that we sell is an inland marine product. You do not need to have a license for that. But your supplemental liability and personal accident, you do need a license for those.
Okay.
Your county, state, blah, blah, blah may require a business license. So make sure to call the town or city. Proper fleet insurance. Rental car companies utilize a special risk insurance, and usually it is not readily available. You can contact commercial insurance agent, or Auto Rental Solutions can help you find a company that writes in your state. Have we done an application for you yet for insurance?
No.
Okay. Have you looked into insurance?
We have. Yeah. We've got. I can send you the form. We had a commercial. Our kind of general insurance broker looked around. They're not a specialist or anything, and they found someone that does this. I'll send you the name of them. I think it's someone that I don't think they've ever done this before, so I think they called up a number of their the insurance underwriters and things like that, and found someone. But we don't know what to compare that
You
to.
have the policy yet?
No. So we haven't gone through the application process or anything yet. We've got vehicles, or we've got a vehicle. We're getting vehicles. You mentioned the slowdown on production and stuff. So we just got our first one last week. We've just got that sitting right now on a commercial vehicle insurance under the company, so our employees can drive it around until we get some of the other things set up so we can rent them.
And you had to pay sales tax on it, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I'm writing this stuff down and thinking like, well,
how much was the sales tax on that bad boy?
I don't know. It's a $55,000 car, so it wasn't cheap.
Multiply that times 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things to think about. You want to get that sales tax number right away.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And with that sales tax number, the next car you buy, you won't have to do that. Second of all, before you buy any more cars, we want to find out what type of insurance you have. Now, right now, it sounds like it's on a commercial policy, not a rental policy.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So we need to get you a rental policy. And we're going to talk on our next meeting about the rental car process and the types of insurance.
Okay.
Rental car companies utilize a special risk insurance. There are only about 6 companies in the nation that do that type of special risk. And unfortunately, they are probably through 4,000 different agencies. So when you start making phone calls to different agents, oh yeah, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. You'll end up with 4,000 prices and 4,000 quotes from 6 companies. All right. And not all 6 companies write in all states every month.
Mhm.
It changes. Fleet financing. Like all things car rental, financing is also different than what you're used to using. Your funding should be compatible with the ability to rent the cars and dispose of the vehicles within 24 months. We'll discuss this later on in the manual. Most retail finance through banks or dealers does not allow cars to be rented,
Mhm.
okay, or used for livery. Example, we had a guy that went and bought, before he did his training with us, he went and he bought 5 BMWs. He bought 2 in his name, 2 in his wife's name, and 1 in his daughter's name. And the dealership financed them. And they financed it for like 72 months. Okay. They're so upside down in those cars. They lost gobs of money. Remember there's that gob number again? Because here's what's happened. What happened? He rented the first car, second car out. It got totaled. He had a $60,000 BMW.
Mhm.
His insurance company wrote a check to him and the finance company. When a finance company saw his name on it as a rental car company, they said, wait, these are rental cars? They pulled all his cars and they went right to the customers' houses and took them.
Wow.
And put them out of business.
Mhm.
They ran the cars to the auction and he took a hell of a loss. So you want to make sure that your finance people know that these vehicles are going to be rented. Very important. Now, how did you finance that first car? Or did you pay
Dealer.
cash?
No, VW, Volkswagen dealer. We did check, and from what we gather, there weren't any restrictions on renting it out. We did double check that.
Read that contract close.
Okay.
Okay, read that contract close.
Okay.
A lot of most companies, the way you do it, you want to set up, and we'll get into this later, but you want to set up so that you're in the proper position to be able to dispose of the car at the auction, at wholesale, on either month 12 or month 24.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that you're into the car for the balance of the finance, so that you can dispose of the car, go out and finance another one, do it again.
Okay.
That's what your holding company has to do. Now, credit card processing. Have you done your credit card process? Well, you haven't done your software yet.
No.
Okay, when you do your software, there are several different ways to go with software. There are a bunch of companies out there that provide software for rental car companies. And the software I'm talking about is not Windows. It could be a Windows compatible product, but it's not put out by Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
The software companies are what we call rental management software. In the past, the rental agreements were done out on the counter by hand and handed back over your shoulder to the back office, who then wrote them down in a ledger. That's when I started. We wrote them I actually had a ledger. Okay. And when my accountant read my handwriting in the ledger, he pretty much said, I'm not going to do this anymore. You're going to pay me more money. Okay. And then I got my first computer because he could read my printouts. That worked.
That's great. Yeah. Smart.
He was smart. Yeah. Credit card processing comes with your rental management systems. so that as you're opening up the rental agreement, you put in the credit, you'll swipe the credit card to get the best discount available.
Mhm.
Not all credit card is this processing is the same. But it is. No matter what you do, you're going to hear this guy is going to say, well, we've got it at 1.2, we got it at 1.9, we've got credit card processing at 1.39. Interchange rate is 1.78, hasn't changed in years. And no matter what you do, you're going to have credit card transaction charges, you're going to have, long and the short of it, just like at the airport, you're going to pay all the extra fees. You're going to walk away about 3%. Okay, because Amex is like 4.25. You know, you're going to walk away with a statement between 3 and 3.5%. So that's what you want to target. I don't care what we're doing with processing and so on. I just want to know what my total fees are going to be.
Okay.
When you're doing your pro forma, use your credit card processing at 3% of sales.
Okay.
Okay. That'll help you. If it's less, great. If it's more, well, it's going to happen. State specific rental contract. This is an issue. About 11 states have specific rental contracts that have to be done in that state. Your software provider will know which state, and your insurance company will know which state you have to have a separate contract. So this is where we get into a hiccup. If I'm going to deliver to California, I've got a different rental contract than I have in Texas. If my insurance company is going to provide me with those contracts, they're going to know I'm doing rentals in California.
Mhm.
I've got to have insurance for California. Even though the cars are registered in Texas, they could be titled in Texas. Now I got to register those cars in California. Now I've got, so you see where I'm going with this? You can have a couple of hiccups crossing the line. If you're going to do onesie twosies in California, not an issue.
Okay.
If suddenly you pick up 50 operators in California, you might want to open up an office and handle the taxes and so on. All right.
Mhm.
And it really comes down to taxes and insurance.
Mhm.
Because there are state specific contracts. Your software provider will automatically update the contract. You want to make sure that you talk to them about that to be sure. And I would not buy a software program that does not provide a state specific contract. There's a lot of software programs out there, but if they do not provide a state specific program, do not rely on your insurance company to get it for you.
Mhm.
Okay. Because that's their job, the software company. Let's talk about insurance.
Hey, Jim, I'm so sorry. Can I ask a quick question on the last point there?
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned the 11 states have specific rental agreements, and it sounds like California is one of them. And then we talked, I think, on the phone one time just about the term that we're talking about, and you said anything over 30 days is a lease, not a rental.
Correct.
Does that, would a lease contract also need to be specific to the state as well if we're doing more of a lease than a rental?
If you're going to put 12 cars, or you're going to put a car
Yeah.
into Denver on a lease, then you need a lease contract for Denver or for Colorado.
For Colorado, okay. Okay.
A lease specific. And I got to tell you, this is not rocket science. You go to Reynolds and Reynolds and you buy them by packs 50. And they're all state specific. And your software guy can edit it to make sure that you have multiple contracts. I used to have 4 contracts when I had my place, and I'm talking, I had an NEC 286 speed, 20 megabyte hard drive.
Mhm.
I mean, I have 20 megabytes
It's top
in
of the
my
line.
hard drive.
Yep.
Okay. And I had 4 contracts. I had one for passenger cars, I had one for minivans, I had one for trucks, and I had one for passenger vans.
Mhm.
I actually 5 had one for U-Haul. And so they were all programmed in there, and I would just select each contract.
Mhm.
And I bought them all from Reynolds and Reynolds, and I got them all state specific. Now, if it's over 30 days, it becomes a lease. So you want to use the leasing form if you know for a fact it's going to be out on a lease.
Mhm.
Your rental insurance does not have to be on it. We'll talk more about this. Is a good place to talk about it. Your rental car insurance could be taken off of this because the guy that you're going to lease it to should provide you with insurance.
Okay.
And he should provide you with $1 million worth of excess. He should provide you with the state minimums for the state. You want collision with $100 deductible. And if he and he should have naming you as the additional insured and your finance company as an additional insured, or the holding company, or however you do it. Okay.
Okay.
And I ran a company called Camelot Leasing along with my franchise, and my contracts were with Camelot Leasing. Okay. So I'm very familiar with it. I had 26 cars and trucks for about 24 months with a company you probably never heard of called Xerox. Okay. And what was the amazing thing about that? They paid me more money than National Car Rental would have charged them had they picked up the cars at the airport.
Mm.
And my cars were 2 years old, and I wasn't buying them until they had 50,000 miles on them. And they owned L&M Leasing, which owned National Rent-A-Car.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
But they came to me because of the service that I had provided one of their VPs when he had a breakdown. And I said, well, I'll never get this. So I just bid it. And I got it.
That's amazing. That's
And it was
great.
2 years. So it's amazing. And candidly, that's the nature of the business. Okay. That's why McDonald's sells a hamburger for 89 cents. And that's also why the guy down the street has the same, has a similar hamburger, only maybe a little bit bigger, and he gets $9.
Mhm.
Okay. And in California, it's 12. Sample rental car fleet insurance. This is what you would get. All right. Your rental insurance has 2 categories: liability and collision, and it includes comp. Your liability insurance is your protection against a loss suffered by an innocent third party, place, or thing. A telephone pole is considered an innocent third party. Collision and comp is what will pay for the damage done to your vehicle. Or damage caused by wind, hail, etc. We had I always thought that as long as you were in a car, you were safe from lightning. Well, we had one of my customers had a Suburban that was struck by lightning. Car had 5,000 miles on it. It burnt out every piece of electronics in that car.
Oh, wow.
It put a hole about 1 inch in the roof, and it exited out the tailpipe, and it burned out everything. The car was sold. 5,000 miles. Car was no good.
Wow.
And it didn't burn. It didn't burn,
Hmm.
but it did put a hole in the leather seats in the back.
God.
So,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah. A sample of your fleet insurance, you're going to have $1 million worth of liability. I call that screw up insurance. That's when you or your rental agent screws up. Your collision and comp is usually going to be at 25 or 45,000. And it's going to have between $1,000 and a $2,500 deductible. Now your cars are going to be more than that. But remember, you're going to be in second position in most states. So we're going to talk about that some more. Liability insurance has two distinct coverages. The first part of your liability is minimum financial requirements. I just looked at the clock and we're going on 3:20 after 3. Do you need a break?
No, I'm fine. Thanks
Okay,
for
good.
asking though. How about you?
I did not. I stopped drinking coffee at 11 o'clock, so I'm good to go. All right. Liability coverage has two distinct coverages. The first part of your liability policy is the state minimum financial requirements. So that's what the state requires in order to register the car.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is your $1 million umbrella. The state minimum requirements are the first level of coverage. Now, every one of your customers must provide you with their liability coverage. And this is going to cause a little bit of a hiccup when you're dealing B2B, because your rental insurance is going to require that the renter provide you with liability. So if you're renting a replacement vehicle to Xerox, then they're going to have to provide you with proof of liability before you can give the driver the car. We'll talk more about that, but I want to drop that load on you right now. Okay, should a claim come through to you, that's the first level of coverage, and it would go to the driver. Okay.
And sorry for my ignorance, but when I pick up a vehicle at the enterprise desk at the airport or something like that, I'm usually not providing them. I mean, I'm giving them my driver's license and things like that, but I'm usually not providing them with evidence of coverage. Am I thinking about that the wrong way though?
No, you're not actually, because you're going to hear that a lot. And that's why I'm scrolling right now.
Okay.
I want to reinforce something. That number, that number right there.
Yeah.
If they get $1 million lawsuit, they're going to add about 93 cents to every car because they got 1,100,000 cars. They don't own an insurance company.
Yeah.
They are self-insured. Because for what they would have to pay for insurance, think about this. They have 1,100,000. If they only paid $100 per car per month, look at the insurance premium they would have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can self-insure for that easily.
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't care. The airport guys, they don't care. Same thing. They're not self-insured. Their theory, and I love this one. It goes back to probably before your time, O.J. Simpson running through the airport. And he wasn't trying to get away from the police in Los Angeles. Sorry, that was a poor joke. It was, how fast can I get my rental car and get out? Avis and Budget even had a picture of a guy flying from the airplane through the air into a convertible and how fast he could get a car and go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They're the guys that decided it had to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't ask those questions. They're self-insured. They don't care.
But our customers are going to have to give us their insurance card, essentially.
Right. And you're gonna have to tell them why.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell them just what I said. That's right. At the airport, even I, as the owner of a rental car company, I don't have to show them at the airport, but I do if I rent from the guy across the street. And the interesting thing is now at the airport, they're starting to add the line that they want to see your insurance card.
Okay.
So it's happening. Okay. And part of the reason is prices have gone through the roof.
And in a B2B situation, so I know we're going to get into some of this later, but we're looking for the insurance card of the individual driver.
Yes.
For that.
Looking for the insured, the driver, first of all, Franklin Automotive cannot drive cars. But Franklin Automotive might have 4 salesmen that are selling their auto parts around the country.
Mhm.
And they want to put those salesmen into electric cars. All right. Well, Franklin Automotive will have a liability product, but Billy Bob is the driver. The driver needs to be named on their policy. So you want to make sure that those drivers are on the policy, because the company can be the person that's paying the bill.
Mhm.
Okay. But the individual is the one that's driving the car, and he's responsible for what damage he does with the car.
Okay.
Okay. Now, classic example. When a church comes in and says, we need a minivan, and it won't be long, there's going to be electric minivans. There already are a few.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, and I'm going to go off subject here because I just saw this. I have a couple of old cars, and I get my insurance for them through Haggerty. And Haggerty had an article about a Ford, a 1968 Ford F-100 that Ford turned into a concept vehicle with a drop-in electric motor. Have you seen that?
Very cool. I have not seen that.
It's a crate motor that's electric.
Yeah.
Now, a crate motor means the racing division creates it and you put it in your hot rod. They created an electric crate motor, and they dropped it into a 1968 Ford F-150. And it's beautiful. It's like a beige color. And I'll find it and I'll email it to you. You got to show your partners.
That sounds amazing.
I got to get rid of that email, or I got to get rid of that sunlight. So I'm going to find that and send it to you. It is so cool.
That sounds amazing. We've got you may know this already, but Ford's coming out with the production electric version of the F-150, probably
The Lightning.
Yeah, the Lightning next
Yeah.
year. So we've got a bunch of reservations down for that. But
Oh,
that would be, yeah, that sounds amazing.
everybody's got them, and I got to tell you, I was one of those guys that electric cars. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm getting proven wrong.
Yeah.
So where were we here? I know I got off subject for you, but when I get off the phone,
I took us off. Yep.
I want you to, I'm going to send you that electric Ford. And it's going to be in apparently all the car shows.
Oh, cool. That's great.
But it's not a car. They're not going to produce it. It's just a concept car.
Mhm.
Okay, we talked about state-specific contract. There we go. All right. So your liability insurance, we talked as 2 distinct coverages. Here's how the state minimums work. All right. Your state minimums are per person, all injured persons, and property damage. A standard format would be like 15, 25, and 10. The format in this example means the policy will pay an injured third party up to $15,000 if he or she is injured. The second part says $25,000 for all the people hurt. Property damage is the total amount of $10,000, or I'm sorry, yeah, $10,000 paid for property damage, such as a telephone pole, another car, or a mailbox. And I found out that telephone poles are actually around 11 grand now.
Oh,
But that's another story. In general, a driver or passenger inside your rental car is not eligible to file a liability claim. He is not an injured third party. If they get hurt in the accident, they need to go to their medical coverage. But also understand there are 50 states with 50 different state laws that are continually changing. So nothing's ever written in stone. The second part of your liability coverage is your umbrella unit or your umbrella limit. Should a claim exceed the state limits and come to you as a registered owner of the car, the maximum will usually be up to $1 million. Now, what would cause you to get $1 million hit? Two things can happen. You can be a primary state. So depending on the state that you're renting the vehicles in, you could either be primary or secondary. Once we get into this and you get ready to open up, I'm going to get you a list of primary and secondary. Well, actually, it's in here. You're going to get it. Some states require your insurance to be primary, meaning your insurance is first position to pay claims. And the others are secondary, meaning the customer's insurance pays claims first. The chart in this section will show you the most current laws on the books for each state. Look up your home state and the surrounding states so that you are familiar with your area's limits. Today, many rental fleet insurance companies will require that the customer has liability insurance and do not want you to rent to uninsured drivers. Contact your insurance company for the information regarding rentals to foreign customers and customers that do not own a vehicle or have no insurance. Find your state and your mandatory coverages. And we'll talk more about that over the months to come. But let's take a look at California. California, 15,030 and 5 means it'll pay 15,000 for an injured third party. So if somebody gets hurt in a crosswalk, it'll pay up to 15,000.
mm-hmm.
For all the people he runs over in the crosswalk, it'll pay 30 grand. It'll pay up to $5,000 for property damage. The mailbox, the car that he runs into, it'll pay that. And in California, it has to be reported by law in 10 days. Of any physical damage or if anybody's dead or injured, or physical damage over $750, and it is the renter's responsibility. So California is a secondary state. Now let's take a look at Texas. Texas is 30, 60, and 25. It still has to be reported in 10 days and anything over $1,000. And that's combined between the two. And the renter is the one that's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, want to bring up something for B2B operators like you. Something called a COI, a certificate of insurance. It's not in our manual because it's more, it's a one-off kind of thing. When you're talking to the businesses and you're going to set up, say, 6 cars for Sears, well, Sears is gone. You're going to set up 6 cars for Macy's. They're not gone yet. Those 6 cars, you want Macy's to give you a COI, certificate of insurance. And the certificate of insurance is got to state that it pays for collision and liability. It covers the liability for the state minimums, plus it covers you with $1 million umbrella. And it shows you and the holding company and the finance company, and probably just the holding company, as additional insureds, as well as any listed drivers, and they should provide you with a list of drivers and their driver's licenses. Okay. So that pretty much fills the gaps for who's paying and who's responsible.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if they can't provide you with a COO or a COI, COI or the certificate of insurance, then you got to rely on the driver. So it gets to be a sticky wicket there because, well, I'm not paying. My insurance company shouldn't be. This is a business. You got squared away with your business, Mr. Jones. Okay. We need insurance. So the COI, certificate of insurance, as soon as you start using that an acronym, somebody there knows it. Okay. Oh, let's look up Colorado. Only because you brought it up. 25, 50, and 15. Okay. Any damage. And in Colorado, both the rental and the renter have shared damages. So it's also shared responsibility to send it to the state within 10 days.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you're reporting it to the state, dumb question also, who are we reporting it to?
Actually, by reporting it to the police, you cover reporting it to the state.
Okay.
And the reason being is the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, they're the people that deal with accident reporting. So they want the reports because they want to know how many fatalities, how many of this, how much damage, blah, blah, blah. They keep all the statistics. When you report an accident when the cop comes over and you give them the accident report, they take care of all that.
Okay.
Today, we have less police. And the police are not going out in most cities unless there's somebody dead or dying. And even then, they want to know how long do you think he's going to last before he dies, before they decide to come out. So in many cases, the driver is responsible to report to the state. Okay. And what I would suggest is on every rental contract that your software prints out for the state it's in, that you take that information and put it in there. In the event of an accident, you must contact the police within the time frame, or you're responsible for all the damage, and have them initial it. Okay. Some way along the line, you want to scare them to death to make sure it gets paid, because a lot of accidents are going to be, they're going to bring the car in with a damaged front bumper and they're going to say, oh yeah, it happened 5 days ago. Okay. So you want to, and already in some states you have to report it immediately.
Mhm.
So it could already be in hot water. Collision is pretty much straightforward. It pays for the repair and damage to your car from an accident. But remember, losses cost you money. Malcolm, I'm going to ask you a silly question. At least it sounds silly. What's insurance for?
It's for paying when something bad happens so that I don't have to pay for it.
For your personal insurance, yes. For your rental car company, no. Your insurance that you're going to have for your rental car company is to send money, guns, and lawyers to protect you in court because you're that big bad corporation. And you're intimidating the customer by taking them to court. Your insurance company will provide you with the money, guns, and lawyers to fight that claim. And there's a reason behind it. This type of insurance is altogether different than the Geico on your car. Okay? Geico, their idea is to keep you happy and all the people in your neighborhood because they want to sell all those other people more insurance. Okay? Well, this is a real small market. In this particular case, they have two types of accounts. All insurance companies do. One is a reserve account, which is what they use to pay for damages. The other is their operating account. The operating account is where they pay for the money, guns, and lawyers. The reserve account is what the feds look at to find out how much reserves they have to help determine whether or not they can continue to sell insurance. So that's why everybody says things like silly things like, you know, they probably spent $20,000 to not pay a $2,000 claim. That is so stupid. From a business standpoint, it is. But that $2,000 claim had to come out of the reserve account. And they need to protect that reserve. They'll spend 20 grand for money, guns, and lawyers to not have to pay a claim. So now, what is your insurance for the rental car company?
Money, guns, and lawyers.
Bingo. The only time you want to send in a claim is after you have exhausted every other possibility. Keep that in mind. So remember, when a customer has damage, you're the one that wants to take them by the ankles, turn them upside down, shake them, and then have somebody pick up all the nickels, dimes, and quarters, because I'm too old to bend over. Okay. And apply that towards the damages. Now, what else you got? What's left on your credit card? Let's call your insurance company. You get it paid. Don't automatically go to your insurance. Okay. Most insurance companies will deal with what they call the 50% threshold. The 50% threshold means, let's say you're paying $100 a month per car for insurance, both liability and collision. And you got 10 cars. That means you're paying $12,000 a year in insurance, $1,000 a month, 12 months, $12,000. If one of those cars is $40,000 and it gets totaled, they'll pay it. Are they going to renew you? Because they collected $12,000 from you, but they had to pay out 40% or $40,000. You're going to get canceled. So it's advantageous as part of your business plan to build your fleet as soon as possible so that you're paying lots of insurance. The reason being is that 50% threshold gets taller and taller and taller as you grow. All right? Because it's all done based on 50%. Collision claims are the ones that cost the worst. Those one-time $1 million lawsuits, okay, you know what? Even though you're only paying $12,000 worth of claims or premiums, they probably on $1 million lawsuit would not cancel you because that happens. All right. It's when you consistently send in $2,000 worth of body damage and all of a sudden you're over that 50%. And a lot of guys do that.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind in your business process and in your projections. The larger you get, the more you pay, and that will help you manage your insurance. You are the frontline underwriter for your insurance portfolio. Okay. Comprehensive, it covers flood, lightning strike. We talked about that. Many of your customers believe that their insurance, I'm talking retail now, they believe that their insurance transfers to a rental car. Not anymore. Even when they buy what they call insurance, replacement insurance. Replacement insurance means that if, and they'll say car rental insurance, that means it'll pay for a car rental if your car is destroyed or in the shop. But it doesn't pay if you're on a trip. Example, grandma and grandpa come to your house for the weekend. But the brother-in-law is still living with them in the basement with his hand controls, his remote controls for his video games. And his car is parked in the driveway and it's out of gas. And he's going to take grandpa's car and go for a ride. Grandpa doesn't care. Grandpa's out with you in California and he wants to rent a car. And they both have an accident. Which insurance company is going to pay for both cars? None. Okay. Grandpa's going to get hung to dry for the rental car because the only time his insurance transfers to the rental car is if he's in the shop. Because now he's under the shop's insurance. Now, I'm throwing a lot at you. That's why it's a good thing we're taping this. Second of all, it's a good thing it's written down so that you can refer to this. Are you going to remember all of this when you're standing behind the counter going, wait a minute, which button do I do to start a rental agreement? Okay. It's not going to happen overnight. That's why you have us for a year. You have us for telephone calls anytime you need us, emails anytime you need us. Right now, when I logged off, I still had 110 emails to go through.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. So I'm not bashful. I'll go through and get them done. You know, most of them are, no, don't do that. Okay. You get the picture.
Actually, no. Yes. Yeah. That's great.
No, don't do that. Many customers' insurance, they feel it transfers. That's why we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to call the agent. And we're going to say, Mr. Schallberg or Mr. Customer is here to rent a car from us. He's going to have the car for 5 days. If he smashes it up, will you pay me? I don't want to hear, oh yeah, he's got more insurance than God. Not a problem. Go ahead, rent it. Oh, will you pay me if he smashes up the car? Okay. I've had people say to me, Jim, that's just, it's not very polite. Nowhere near is not as polite as if I don't get paid for that right front fender. Okay. So now it's up to Mr. Customer's Insurance to look it up and say, yes, we will pay for any liability and collision claims that come in while Mr. Customer has the car. Great. I need you to just do me a favor, scribble that on a piece of paper and sign it and email it to me. And this is my email address. Now you just saved your customer from having to buy that ugly insurance that we sell. Because us car guys, you make a joke and it's done. Okay. But now he's got to pay in the event of an accident.
Okay.
Additionally, many policies limit coverage to like vehicles. I'm driving a Ford EcoSport. I had to look out the window because I couldn't remember what it was called. A Ford EcoSport, okay, and a Trailblazer. Well, neither of those are electric cars, and neither of those cost what an electric car costs. Why would my collision insurance transfer to your car? So a lot of them stick to like kind vehicles.
Mhm.
Again, we got to ask. Call the insurance company and verify the coverage. Now let's move on to the dreaded credit card coverage. Because everybody believes that their credit card pays for damages.
Mhm.
Not true. Usually credit card coverage is secondary, meaning somebody must file a claim first with the renter's insurance company. And whatever the renter's insurance company will not pay, the credit card company will cover. The credit card company only pays what the insurance company refuses to pay. The customer must pay for the damages with the credit card when the rental contract is closed and then collect from the credit card company. Now, time out. We know that many people use their credit card for coverage, and especially American Express. Well, American Express will pay for collision damage if the owner of the credit card buys the optional damage waiver from American Express when they renew the card, and it costs about 150 to 200 bucks. Then in order for them to pay, they will only pay if the renter makes the reservation with that credit card, pays for that credit card, and picks it up with that credit card, and closes out the rental car with that credit card.
Mhm.
If any of those steps are skipped and they say, I want to put it on my Visa because I get more points, they won't pay. So the simplest thing to do when somebody says that, no problem. Mr. Jones, give me your gold card. You call the 800 number on the back and say, let me think. If Mr. Jones smashes up my car, will you pay me? And smile into the phone. Okay. Let's talk about what they sell at the airport. They don't sell insurance at the airport. They sell collision damage waiver. Collision damage waiver. Many large operators opt to sell collision damage waiver, CDW.
Mhm.
Collision damage waiver is an option that you can sell to customers. CDW is used to increase your daily rental, but it carries a dangerous side effect. If you sell collision damage waiver, for instance, in California, all your customer has to do is bring back the steering wheel and the keys. That's it. And as long as he brings back the steering wheel and the keys, he doesn't owe you anything. You can't make him pay the deductible. You can't make him pay nothing. You also cannot turn over that claim to your insurance company. See, the majors are self-insured. They already expect that they're going to pay those claims. And they sell the collision damage waiver anywhere from $15 to $25 a day. And that money goes into an account to pay for damage.
Mhm.
And they're doing it on 1,100,000 cars. You can collect a serious amount of money.
Mhm.
On 100 cars, you can connect some decent money, but not the kind of money that you need to pay a total. So collision damage waiver, be careful. All right. Your insurance company may come back with a quote that says you're not allowed to sell it.
Mm.
Renter's collision protection. Most rental cars damage come back look like this. It's a bumper cover offender. This particular damage right here is a bumper cover with paint and everything is around 550 to 600 bucks. The tail light's about another 100. This dent here means he's got to shoot the whole quarter panel. And assuming that the bumper underneath didn't get damaged, this could be about 600, 700, 900 bucks, maybe $1,500 total with paint and metal. Okay, not a bad hit, but it's still $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the insurance company that you have is $1,000 deductible. Do you want to send in a claim for 500 bucks? No. But you do have a product. I just happen to have a product for you called Renter's Collision Protection. Renter's Collision Protection is an actual insurance policy that you can sell on the counter and you do not need a license for it. RCP is actual insurance. It'll pay up to $20,000 in damage as long as the customer doesn't violate the contract. It has a $250 deductible. So when the car goes out, you collect the rental in advance and $250 bucks. It costs you $18 a day. And most of our folks are selling it for $25 and $35 a day. And they're making a little bit of a profit. And because we're getting all the money up front, you get your money in profit right away.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into depth and do the instructions and the training for you. But I created this product back in 2006. It took me from 2000 to 2006 to finally convince a couple of insurance companies to pick it up. And we are just, well, we got 1,100 people selling it. So
Wow.
something's going right. We're coming up on the bewitching hour. We've got loss prevention to go through. I love these little guys. I watched them with my granddaughter and I fell in love with these little guys. They are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't often watch cartoons, but I like to watch this one. And I try to figure out what they're saying. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I try to figure out what they're saying, and it's hysterical.
No. Yeah.
It is hysterical. We've probably got another 45 minutes to go before we're done. And it's already 4 o'clock here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to pick it up again next time. Same bat channel, same bat station. And we're going to pick it up at Loss Prevention. This is a good place to stop.
That sounds great. And tomorrow, I think we're on the 7.
We're going to be at 2 o'clock, right?
2 o'clock.
Or is it tomorrow in the morning?
I had a morning time, I think, 10 a.m. your time. 7, 8, 9, 10. Does that make sense?
I believe you're right. Yes. I think the rest of your sessions are all morning sessions.
Yep. All right, great. I'll
Now-
look forward to picking this. Yep. Go ahead.
Time out. 10 o'clock in the morning is 7 o'clock in the morning your time.
Yep. I'll have a nice cup of coffee going.
Well, you want to move it a little bit?
That's okay unless you need to. I've got my afternoon is pretty full tomorrow, so that
So
7
let's
a.m.
stay there. That's good.
works absolutely fine. Yeah,
As long as you're good with it, then consider it done.
it's great.
'Cause
Yep.
this is your ball and game, and how do they say your ball and bat? We're playing your game. Okay.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, I got to tell you, Malcolm, this has been swell. The nice thing about what I do, I meet the nicest people, and I mean that sincerely.
That's very nice of you to say. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir.
Appreciate all this information. Also, this is incredibly valuable. Obviously,
See you
looking forward to
tomorrow
talking to you.
morning at 7 in the morning.
We'll have a double coffee.
We'll have it together. You betcha. Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thanks a lot. See you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.